Imagine a place so small, you can miss it on a world map. A strip of water between two coastlines. But if ships slow down there, oil traders wake up, gas prices start whispering, airlines recalculate, factories worry, central banks watch inflation again, and ordinary people who have never seen that water may feel it later, at a pump, on a bill, or inside a grocery price. That is the strange power of a choke point. The world looks huge, but sometimes the world economy breathes through one narrow throat. The Strait of Hormuz does not look like the center of the world. It is not a stock exchange. It is not a central bank. It is not a famous company with a logo on every phone. It is water, but through that water, an enormous part of the world's energy has to move. The U.S. Energy Information Administration has called it the world's most important oil transit choke point. In one recent EIA analysis, oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz averaged about 21 million barrels per day. That was about 1/5 of all petroleum liquids consumed in the world. And it was not only oil. More than a quarter of global liquefied natural gas trade also passed through that same narrow route. So when tension rises there, markets do not wait politely for a perfect disaster. They start pricing fear. They price risk. They price delay. They price insurance. They price the possibility that a ship may not move as easily tomorrow as it moved yesterday. This is why one strait can matter to people who never think about ships. Oil is not only something that comes out of the ground. It is something that has to travel. And the price of travel is part of the price of modern life. A barrel trapped in the wrong place is not the same as a barrel delivered on time. That sounds obvious, but markets forget obvious things. When life is calm, during calm years, people build systems around the assumption that the narrow path will stay open. Ships will sail, ports will work, insurance will be available, fuel will arrive, factories will receive parts, stores will receive goods. The price will be annoying, but manageable. Then one event reminds everyone that the system is not a cloud. It is physical. It has water, steel, crews, ports, routes, pipelines, and places where everything narrows. To understand why this matters, we do not have to begin with oil. We can begin with food. There was once a war in ancient China, where one side looked stronger, bigger army, more men, more confidence. On paper, it should have been the safer bet. The other side was smaller. It had fewer resources, could not afford a long war. If you only counted soldiers, the answer looked simple. But war is not only soldiers. War is rice, grain, roads, horses, men who can still stand because they ate yesterday. The larger army had a supply depot, a place where its food was stored. Not glamorous, not heroic, not the place poets would choose first, but the army depended on it. The smaller rival understood something that modern markets still understand. You do not always have to defeat the whole system. Sometimes, you only have to find the place where the system cannot breathe. So he attacked the grain depot. At night, his men struck the supplies. The food burned. The larger army still had soldiers. It still had weapons. It still had generals. But the invisible foundation, under all of that strength, had been damaged. Once the supply failed, confidence failed. Once confidence failed, the army's size became less impressive. The battle did not turn, because every man was defeated one by one. Turned because the route, that made the army possible, was broken. That is the first lesson of a choke point. Power is not only what you own. Power is whether what you own can keep moving. A country may have oil. A company may have inventory. A family may have income. An army may have men. But if the narrow point fails, strength can become stranded. This is why a strait is not just geography. It is trust made visible. When ships pass normally, people stop seeing the strait. It disappears into the background, like electricity in the wall. But when something threatens it, everyone suddenly remembers that the background was holding up the picture. The second story is about a pass, not a famous city, not a throne room, not a dramatic battlefield, where two great leaders met face to face. Pass, a small place where movement could be controlled. A brilliant commander planned a campaign through dangerous territory. He needed certain routes protected. He needed the enemy delayed. He needed supplies and soldiers to move through the right places at the right time. So he sent a trusted man to hold a key position. The trusted man was intelligent. He knew the books. He knew the theories. But at the pass, theories met terrain. He chose a position that looked strong from a distance, but failed in practice. The enemy cut him off. Water became a problem. Movement became a problem. The pass was lost. And when that small point failed, the larger campaign could not continue. The commander had to retreat. This is the second lesson of a choke point. Plan can be brilliant and still die at the narrowest point. That is true in war. It is true in business. It is true in finance. And it is true in daily life. People like big explanations. They say, the economy is strong. The company is growing. The market is efficient. The supply chain is global. The world is diversified. But the question is not only how big the system is. The question is, where does it narrow? Where is the one route everyone assumes will keep working? Where is the hidden pass? Where is the grain depot? Where is the strait? This is why the Strait of Hormuz can frighten markets. Not because every barrel of oil in the world sits there. It does not. Not because the global economy has no alternatives at all. It has some. Pipelines exist. Storage exists. Ships can sometimes reroute. Countries can release reserves. People can adapt. But adaptation is not free. Rerouting takes time. Insurance gets expensive. Uncertainty adds a premium. Companies hesitate. Consumers get nervous. Central banks, already watching inflation, have to ask whether energy prices will start pushing everything else higher. That is the danger. Not only the physical shortage, the psychological shortage, the feeling that tomorrow's delivery is no longer guaranteed. Modern markets move on expectations. Sometimes the fear of a blockage arrives before the blockage itself. And once fear enters prices, spreads, oil becomes transport cost. Transport cost becomes food cost. Food cost becomes political pressure. Energy cost becomes factory cost. Factory cost becomes consumer price. Consumer price becomes inflation data. Inflation data becomes interest rate pressure. And suddenly, one narrow place on a map is sitting inside a mortgage payment, a grocery bill, or a stock market sell-off. That is why choke points are so powerful. They connect the physical world to the emotional world. A ship is delayed. A trader gets nervous. A company raises estimates. A consumer changes behavior. A central banker changes language. And the market moves before most people understand why. The same pattern shows up inside ordinary lives. Every person has private choke points. One job, that pays every bill. One customer that keeps a small business alive. One platform that sends all the traffic. One supplier that no one bothered to replace. One variable rate loan that feels fine until rates rise. One route to work. One fragile assumption. It has always worked before, so it will work tomorrow. That sentence is comfortable. It is also how fragile systems hide. Before a crisis, resilience looks inefficient. Extra inventory looks expensive. Backup suppliers look unnecessary. Savings look boring. Fixed-rate debt may look less clever. When cheap money is everywhere, alternative routes look wasteful. When the main road is open, but after a crisis begins, the boring backup is suddenly the most beautiful thing in the room. This is the uncomfortable truth. Behind choke points, efficiency and fragility often wear the same clothes. The fastest system may also be the system with the least room to breathe. The cheapest route may also be the route that becomes terrifying. When one gate closes, the most optimized life may also be the life that cannot absorb one shock. So the question is not only, can one strait break the world economy? The better question is, why did the world build so much around one strait? Why do companies build supply chains with no patience? Why do markets act surprised when geography still matters? Why do people assume that because something is invisible, it is not essential? Ancient armies learned this with grain. Commanders learned it with mountain passes. Modern economies learn it with oil routes, shipping lanes, semiconductors, ports, data cables, and payment systems. The technology changes. The map changes. The human mistake stays familiar. We fall in love with the big machine. We forget to ask where the machine is narrow. And then, one day, the narrow place speaks. A depot burns. Pass falls. A ship hesitates. A strait becomes a headline. And suddenly the world remembers that progress did not erase geography. It only made geography more expensive when it fails. So no, one strait does not have to break the world economy by itself. The world is too large for that. But one strait can reveal how breakable the world has become, can show us where confidence was hiding, can show us where price was really risk, can show us where efficiency had quietly become dependence. And maybe the most useful lesson is not only for traders, governments, or oil companies, it is for anyone building a life. Do not only ask how much you have, ask how it moves. Do not only ask how strong your plan looks, ask where it narrows. Do not only ask what happens if everything goes right, ask what happens if one small passage closes. Because sometimes the future does not fail at the biggest point. Sometimes it fails at the narrowest one.